The high commands from all over Daxia gathered at the main base of Xianganan. Today was 13th August of the year 793, the era of job changers. This decoration ceremony was the largest in Daxia's history. For the people, it was incredible that Jiang Chen, being an awakened with 3 transformations, had fought against an 8th transformation monster and a 9th transformation opponent. They were happy because another talent had emerged in the war zone of Xianganan. Hong Yao turned to Xiagang, and her eyes filled with curiosity. She asked if he really intended to leave his position as leader to go train in the caverns. Xiagang extended his hand and explained that the superiors had already given him permission, so as soon as the decoration ceremony was over he was going straight to the caverns to begin training. Behind him were the other members of Night Watch. Chubuling began pointing at himself with his thumb and with a determined expression revealed that not only would Xiagang go but they would too. Duan Feng placed his hand on Chubuling's shoulder and began observing Hong Yao in silence, while on the other side, Aunt Tang and Zai Oki began showing a smile. Xiagang's eyes widened in confusion, explaining that at first he had planned to go alone and did not expect them to also want to go with him. Realizing that Jiang had motivated everyone, he could feel that energy from the old days. Upon hearing this, Hong Yao extended her hand and couldn't help but smile. She admitted that the caverns were a place where all races converge, full of strange and powerful creatures. According to her, going there would surely transform them completely. Not far away sat Jiang Wuxian and Ying Zhan. Ying Zhan's attention was fixed on him and his eyes began to shine with seriousness. He was aware that training in Daxia would not allow him to surpass Jiang. He too was preparing to go into the caverns, so he asked what Jiang Wuxian had planned to become stronger. He suggested they go together since in the caverns killing foreign races granted rewards from heaven, being a perfect place for them. Jiang Wuxian crossed his arms, closed his eyes and nodded with a smile. Ying Zhan felt happy seeing that finally Jiang Wuxian was showing the spirit of his grandfather, reminding him not to forget they still had an unfinished fight pending. Duan Feng got on stage and with a serious gaze introduced himself as commander and chief of the Xianganan war zone. He decided to first give half an hour of empty speech in the style of a leader. The people asked him to stop talking nonsense and start with the speech. Some began to complain since they had calluses on their buttocks from sitting. Some masters could not wait any longer. Duan Feng started observing them and extended his hand to one side. At that moment a rift appeared on stage. A moment ago everyone was so serious that Duan Feng wanted to joke a little with them. He decided to skip the talk and go straight to the moment everyone had been waiting for, the decoration ceremony. He decided that it was time to invite one of the 3 warriors of 9 transformations from Daxia, Supreme Commander of the Night Watch and Commander and Chief of the Imperial Capital War Zone, the Great Dreamer, Huanyu, revealing that she would be the one to decorate Jiang Chen and announce his title. The rift activated. Huanyu grabbed another person's hand and while her eyes were shining with excitement, began to emerge from it. With a smile she asked Jiang Chen not to be shy since there was no sister going around defaming her own brother like that. Huanyu and Jiang emerged from the rift and arrived on stage. She placed her hand on our boy's shoulder and with a cheerful smile asked if he was nervous. Jiang Chen, who wore the same outfit as the commanders of the war zones, began adjusting his wrist and with a confident smile said that he was not nervous. Jiang now wore a golden badge. Peng Yao's attention was fixed on our boy and her jaw dropped. She put her hand over her mouth and couldn't help blushing since despite being Jiang's older sister, she was in shock at how handsome he was. Jai Gan crossed his arms and began to observe our boy with a serious gaze. Aunt Tang put her hand on her chin and couldn't help blushing as she had never seen someone as handsome as Jiang in her life. Duan Feng's jaw dropped in surprise, realizing that Jiang was dazzling this time. Mu Henkyu stood up from her seat and her eyes widened with love. Liu Sandao, who was behind her, couldn't help but smile. While on the other side Jai and Xuanyu put both hands over her mouth and started blushing upon seeing how handsome Jiang was. Xuanyu began to touch her cheek and with a curious gaze mentioned that those clothes looked very good on him. Our boy began to sweat and thought that she was teasing him again. Duan Feng thought it was time to begin and gave the order for everyone to shout Jiang Chen's title. Everyone put their hands near their mouths and started shouting demonic insect. Upon hearing this, Jiang's eyes widened in confusion. He couldn't believe that demonic insect was his title according to him. They could have given him another slightly more decent title. He thought that dressing so well for the ceremony had been useless. Our boy and Xuanyu went up on stage. Jiang put his hands behind his back and remained silent. She reached her hand toward the sky and following the will of the people. In the name of the Night Watch of Daxia and the armed forces of Daxia, she granted Jiang Chen from the Xianganan war zone the title of Lord of Heavenly Disasters. Jiang turned to her and with a cheerful expression said that he liked the title Lord of Heavenly Disasters more than demonic insect. In response, she stuck out her tongue and began to show a mocking smile. Jiang finally realized that she had gone through a lot just to play a prank on him. The screen began to show information about Jiang. Xuanyu turned to Xiagang and the others and her eyes began to shine with seriousness, revealing that Jiang Chen was going to be specially granted the title of Guardian King of the Seas, and now the 4 maritime regions were going to be his fiefdom. He was also going to be granted the power to protect the country. He would not be limited to a war zone. He could freely travel throughout Daxia with absolute authority over life and death. Upon seeing the kingdom's guardian, one should treat him as an equal in rank to the invincibles. With a surprised expression, Chubuling asked Jiagang what the great dreamer had meant by that last phrase since he couldn't understand it well. Aunt Tang's eyes widened in surprise. With a serious gaze, Jiagang said it was just as they had heard, Jiang was the kingdom's guardian. Everyone went into shock since our boy was only 18 years old and had already become the kingdom's guardian. It was as if he were breaking the rules of heaven. The attention of Zai Xuanyu's father was fixed on Jiang, and upon hearing that Jiang had received the title of Guardian King of the Seas, he quickly realized that the High Command was planning to re-establish contact with the 3 overseas islands. Upon learning that the 4 maritime regions were going to be Jiang's fiefdom, he noticed that the 3 overseas islands were now considered personal territory of Jiang Chen. He told old Gukashe that his disciple was being put directly on the grill. With a serious gaze, he asked him if none of this mattered to him. The eyes of Gukashe, who was sitting next to him, widened in tranquility. With a smile, he mentioned that he had no desire to worry about things that weren't worth it. The great dreamer opened a box that contained a golden badge. Jiang extended his hand, began to observe it, and with a smile prepared to receive the badge. Exuenu announced that the Great Era was about to begin and it was time to recover the 3 islands of the foreign land. Gukashe thought that what others had not been able to achieve, perhaps his disciple could do. Exuenu explained to Jiang that the badge was the peerless decree. Asking him to keep it safe, our boy thanked her. At that moment, a ninja mounted on a powerful white tiger appeared. He introduced himself as Sasahara no Minamoto from the Sakura kingdom. He came from Takmaghara by order of the great god Yamada no Orochi to congratulate Jiang Cheng of Daxia with a challenge. Zai Exuenu's father rested his arm on the sofa and his gaze fixed on Sasahara, realizing that he was a genius who was in the 3rd transformation but possessed the strength of a peak 5th transformation. He never thought that such a small country like Sakura had such promising talents. Duan Feng told Sasahara that the great dreamer was still on stage and it wasn't his turn yet. Exuenu's eyes began to shine with hatred. With a penetrating gaze, she decided to kill Sasahara for interrupting the ceremony. Just before she could do anything, Jiang put his hand in front of her and while his eyes were shining with determination, he told his sister that there was no need for her to take care of that fly, since he was going to do it instead. Exuenu began to observe Sasahara, and with a confident gaze, she accepted since she wanted to see how powerful Jiang had become. Sasahara, who was mounted on his white tiger, descended to the stage. According to him, Jiang's actions made sense. His reason for challenging directly was because he knew that Daxia was a country that valued ceremony and respect. After all, if friends came from afar, they should be well received. Jiang began to stare at him, and while his body was releasing mist, he asked Sasahara to stop talking so much. He remembered that assassins should act in the shadows, so he asked what he was doing setting ambushes and also questioned who had sent him here to challenge openly. Jiang realized that this could only mean that Sasahara was just a sacrifice. Sasahara began to point at Jiang with his finger and with a confident gaze made it clear that one could only know if he was a sacrifice after fighting. He decided to get straight to the point and asked if Jiang dared not to use the 9 miasma wings. He also mocked Jiang saying that if he didn't dare, he could say it clearly since he wasn't going to make fun of him. Jiang's attention focused on him and his eyes began to shine with excitement and thunder started to emerge from his body. With a smile, he made it clear that his attempt at provocation was somewhat clumsy, but then thought that this beautiful scene should not be ruined by the poisonous mist, so he promised not to use the 9 miasma wings. Jiang activated his domain of the god of thunder, causing a powerful barrier made of electricity to appear. Then, Jiang attacked using the skill called 3000 lightning bolts of judgment, causing thunder to strike Sasahara's body. His white tiger opened its mouth and began to roar in agony. Our boy mocked him by asking how he had dared to come here. A white tiger leapt and began to roar, and just then, Sasahara's body turned into shadow and disappeared. Jiang began to observe the shadow and realized that this was an illusion. With a killer gaze, Jiang activated the body of the divine elephant and delivered a powerful punch to the white tiger's jaw, breaking its teeth. The creature's body was sent flying to one side, and just then, the shadow began to gather in one place, and Jiang realized that this was also an illusion. At that moment, Sasahara appeared above Jiang and made it clear that he had lost. While his eyes were glowing, he revealed that what Jiang had hit before had only been an illusion created by his skill. He decided to warn our boy that his power was completely immune to electricity. It was specialized in destroying everything related to thunder. Upon hearing this, Jiang's attention focused on him, and he couldn't help but go on alert. Sashara attacked using the skill called Killer Thunder, but Jiang's body transformed into electricity, and he moved away from the area, dodging the attack and causing Sashara's fist to strike the ground. Just then, Sashara threw several daggers, which made small cuts on Jiang's body. Our boy's eyes widened in surprise, leaving him in shock. Sashara revealed that Jiang's thunder was not the fastest, since compared to an elite assassin like him, his speed was nothing. He thought that Jiang's previous victories had only been luck, and now that he had been poisoned, if he didn't have an antidote he was going to die. The eyes of Gukashe and Huanyu began to shine with hatred. They began to release their power. The great dreamer made it clear that Sashara was looking for death, just before they could interfere in the fight. Jiang asked them not to move because if it wasn't him who resolved this battle, all decorations would be annulled. Sashara extended his hand and couldn't help but laugh, explaining that using the 9 miasma wings now was going to be a tremendous blow to Jiang's image. He asked if Jiang had planned to consume the blood of the ancient god and faint for a week or summon his demonic dragon and let the heaven destroy it. Jiang's body began to release red energy. He started observing Sashara, and with a smile thought this was the perfect opportunity to test a new technique against him. Sashara drew his sword and went into shock upon seeing that the poison still hadn't affected Jiang. Our boy concentrated the energy in his hand and couldn't help but laugh, revealing that he was called the poison demon and there was no way such a weak poison could do anything to his body. Jiang's eyes began to shine with hatred. He used the technique called Spear of the God of Hell, and his hand transformed into a spear. He attacked, but Sashara blocked the attack and realized that this was a dark type ability. He didn't know if Jiang also possessed dark power. Little by little Jiang's spear began to break Sashara's sword blade. His eyes filled with fear, and he thought it would be better to retreat. At that moment, energy began to envelop his body, and he said goodbye to Jiang. Upon hearing this, the eyes of our boy began to shine with excitement. With a smile he asked if he really believed he could escape. A rift appeared behind Sashara, and from it emerged Jiang's spear. Sashara's attention was fixed on it, and his eyes widened in confusion, and a question came to his mind. He did not know if that spear had a life of its own. Jumping, he began to flee, but in an instant, the spear began to stretch until it pierced through his chest, causing him terrible pain. Jiang pulled the spear out of Sashara's chest, making his body fall to the ground. Jiang began walking back toward Huanyuan, with a confident gaze said that the fly had been eliminated and the ceremony could continue. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, the people who were among the audience put their hands on their heads and their jaws dropped in shock. No one could believe that with just a few skills, Jiang had managed to defeat a fifth transformation assassin, and that without even using the 9 miasma wings. No one knew what skill our boy had used a moment ago, and the little some knew was that he hadn't used the sky sword nor the power of thunder. It was something no one had ever seen before. Jakshuya Vayu's father put his hand near his mouth and with a smile mocked Gukashe for having acted hastily again, realizing that he didn't know his disciple very well. With a confused gaze, Gukashe made it clear that he did know his disciple very well, but due to worry, he had gotten too confused. Deep down he was furious because he didn't know how many tricks and surprises Jiang was hiding. Our boy went back up on stage, and the great dreamer gave him a thumbs up and praised him. Gukashe began observing Jian and told old Jai that he wasn't a class changer, so he wasn't very familiar with those kinds of things. He knew old Jai had seen everything, so he asked what was the black spear Jiang Cheng had used against the assassin. Old Jai explained that according to his experience, he feared that it was a kind of dark class, and most likely it was of divine level. Upon hearing this, Gukashe could not help but wonder if Jiang Chen had awakened a new class. Having 3 divine level classes, he did not know how a third transformation soul could withstand 3 classes. With a kind and proud gaze, the great dreamer praised Jian and mentioned that he had fought very well during this battle. With a sincere expression, our boy said that the combat had not been so impressive. He promised next time to defeat his opponent with a single blow. Several mages went up on stage and using their powers launched confetti all over the stadium. Upon seeing this, people began to cheer for Jiang, saying that he was the lord of heavenly disasters and the king of the seas. Jiang put his arms behind his back and his attention was fixed on someone. It was Luo Sando and her father. Luo Sando was holding a box, and while her eyes were shining with joy, her father placed his hand on his chest and with a smile introduced himself as the head of the Luo family. Together with his daughter Luo Sando, he had come to deliver a divine sword in honor of him becoming the lord of heavenly disasters and the king of the seas. The man who was standing next to the sofa clenched and with an angry gaze began to stare at the man who was sitting next to Gukashe, saying that it was all his fault for competing with him to be the first to offer a gift. In the end, Luo Bando had taken the lead. With a confused expression, the other man said that not even he imagined that the Luo family would be so bold. Zai Xuanyu's father began to stare at old Gu and said that for talking with him, he had also lost the opportunity to be the first to give a gift to Jiang Cheng. Gukashe crossed his arms and with a serious gaze mentioned that this matter had nothing to do with him. Luo Sando opened the box which had a powerful sword. It began to emit an intense aura, leaving Jiang somewhat surprised. He grabbed the sword and its aura began to enter his body. Seeing this, he realized that this sword was trying to devour him. The ancestral tree of all things manifested. Jiang tightly grabbed the sword and his eyes began to shine with evil. Our boy was not a weakling easy to deal with, so he asked the old tree to take care of the sword. The ancestral tree helped Jiang master the sword. While his eyes were shining with excitement, with a smile, he swung the sword forcefully several times, making it clear that from now on he was going to be its owner. Seeing that Jiang had managed to master the sword, Luo Bando's eyes filled with surprise. He couldn't believe that the sword had accepted him as its owner. Luo Sando's eyes began to shine with joy. With a smile she told her father that Jiang was impressive. Luo Bando realized that this gift really was the most suitable for Jiang, thinking that his daughter undoubtedly understood her son-in-law better than anyone in the world. Upon hearing this, she blushed and asked her father not to say nonsense. Luo Bando extended his hand and revealed that this sword was called Tianjui, a 4th level on the list of divine weapons of Great Xia. It occupied the 11th place. This sword was one of the fierce beasts among weapons. When Tianjui was unleashed, it had to take a life in exchange. Otherwise it turned against its owner and hurt them. Upon hearing this, Jiang's eyes filled with curiosity. He began to inspect the weapon in silence. Luo Bando closed his eyes and coughed, revealing that he had given this sword to Gukashe when he was crowned as the Celestial Sword. Upon hearing this, Gukashe also coughed. With his face full of sweat, Luo Bando revealed that at that time Jiang's master wasn't very fond of it. With a nervous gaze, the great dreamer explained to our boy that Gukashe was very excited to have the sword but couldn't hold it and almost got devoured by its backlash. Jiang's eyes filled with surprise. He couldn't believe he had managed to master the sword that his master hadn't been able to. Everyone's attention was fixed on Gukashe. Upon feeling this, he closed his eyes and couldn't help but blush, making it clear that it was normal for a disciple to be stronger than the master. He also mocked them, saying that they, fools with chicken eyes, were never going to have a disciple like his in this life. With a confused gaze, old Ji asked if Gukashe was upset. Mu Henkyu, who was holding a box, went up on stage along with her grandfather. People realized that he was the crowned king, Muhenan from the southern war zone of Great Exai. He had come to deliver a pearl of the sea god as tribute to the lord of heavenly disasters and king of the seas. People were shocked to see the pearl of the sea god, realizing that the Mu family had invested heavily since this treasure was loot that Jiang Nan's southern army had taken from the ocean 30 years ago, a water treasure. Inside it was the source of an entire sea, and if fully released, it could fill a vast ocean or could also be used as a brick to hit someone. Our boy took the box and with a nervous expression thanked them. Mu Henkyu couldn't help blushing. She clenched her fists and with a smile thanked her grandfather. Muhenan gave her a gentle pat on the back and with a cheerful expression said that Jiang was too polite and that they were family. Just then, Tang Yin and her father also went up to the stage with a gift. The father asked Muhenan to leave the stage now that he had delivered the gift. The crowned king of the southern war zone of Great Exai, named Tang Wangchun, decided to offer 3/8 transformation demonic's face as tribute. Cai Kunyu and her father also stepped into the stage. Jai Hongyan, commander-in-chief of Great Exai's war zone, decided to give Jiang 20 drops of god and demon blood. Jai Oki began to gaze at the ground and felt sad since they, the night watch, were too poor and had nothing of flying to offer. With a sincere expression, Duan Feng clarified that not only did they have nothing, but sometimes they also had to depend on Jiang Chen to get by. Jai Gang stood up, clenched his fist, and with a serious gaze admitted that they were poor, but revealed that they did have something of value that they could give as a gift to little Jiang. He approached Jiang and while his eyes were shining with joy, he opened his fist, revealing a potion. With a smile, in the name of all the night watch he gave our boy a strand from the source of faith. Jiang's attention was fixed on it and he couldn't help but feel happy. With a confused expression, Hongyao asked her master if he didn't think this gift was a bit empty. Dukakshin's eyes began to shine with confidence. He explained that these kinds of things were hard to describe, since faith was the purest, most fervent and selfless. According to him, the gift could be cheap, which made it more valuable. Jiang took the bottle and his eyes filled with tears of happiness and his body began to tremble. Jai Gang revealed that this strand of faith gathered more than 800,000 inhabitants of Kujian city. It was capable of resisting a blow strong enough to move a nation. Jiang gave Jai Gang a hug, realizing why he had been so busy lately. He had been preparing this gift in secret. Jai Gang revealed that soon they would go into the underground cave, and this was also the last gift he had for Jiang Qing. Dukakshin and Hongyao also went up on stage. With a serious gaze, Dukakshin handed our boy a talisman. Today was Jiang's big day, and as his useless master and mistress, they had to celebrate with him. This heaven-slashing talisman had been forged by them using the essence of the Sword of Heaven when activated. It could withstand a blow capable of toppling a nation, and even though it only had the power to endure one strike. At the crucial moment it could be just what Jiang needed. Jiang extended his hands to take the talisman, and Hongyao began to show a smile. Our boy grabbed the talisman and asked if he could do whatever he wanted with it. Dukakshin said yes, since from now on it was his. Jiang offered Jai Gang the talisman, bowed his head before him, and because he knew they were going into a cave, he asked him to take the talisman with him. Upon seeing this, Jai Gang became confused, while on the other hand Dukakshin felt surprised. Jiang was called stupid for underestimating others, and people thought he was arrogant and capricious, but he had no other family than Jai Gang and the others. Before reaching the sixth transformation, the god of war was not going to allow him to go with them to the cave, so he could not be at ease without knowing if something bad was going to happen to Jai Gang and the others. Jai Gang placed his hand on Jiang's shoulder and with a serious gaze decided to obey Jiang and everything. He gave him his word and promised that in the future they would fight alongside him as strong warriors, asking him to please accept the strand from the source of faith. Our boy took out a box with all the gifts he had received. With a smile he mentioned that they were his family. In the box was Jian's previous equipment and the gifts he had received. He decided to give them to Jai Gang so that he could distribute them among the other members of Night Watch. Jai Gang panicked, and seeing this, our boy asked him not to be modest and accept this gift. With a confused gaze, Jai Gang accepted, since he had said that today he would listen to Jiang and everything. Aunt Tang and the others couldn't help but cry. She felt sad because she didn't know why they always had to take advantage of Jiang Cheng. Duan Feng made it clear that they were a family and shouldn't speak like strangers. They had to strive even more and be stronger to be worthy of being Jiang's family. At that moment, a strange red rift appeared in the sky. Everyone's attention was fixed on it, believing another assassin had come. From the rift emerged a man and a powerful dragon. This man was none other than Jai Linkyu. With a smile, he began pointing at the dragon with his thumb. He climbed onto the head of the dragon, revealing that this dragon, a 9th-level demonic beast, was his gift. Everyone's attention was fixed on the powerful dragon. According to our boy, Jai Linkyu's gift was very good. Since being such a fierce beast, it was perfect food for little Nine and the others. Since the last time they had reproduced, it had been very difficult for Jiang to keep them well fed. Huan Yao began to point at the dragon with her finger, and her eyes widened in surprise. According to her, it was expected that Jai Linkyu would give Jiang such an amazing gift. She asked her master when they could look as impressive as him. With a smile, he mentioned that they still needed to keep practicing. Jai Linkyu raised his sword, and while it was shining, he made it clear that the flame of arrival of the great Xi was never going to be extinguished. Upon hearing this, everyone raised their fists and began to shout the name of Jiang. In the spatial chaos of the underground cavern, 4 powerful beings gathered and began to observe a portal. All had heard the news that on the home planet of Great Xi, millions of creatures of the 9 miasma wings had been born. Although last time, The 10th seat of the Church of the Ancient God had used their power from the ancient gods to eliminate millions of creatures. This was still a danger they could not ignore. Jiang Shunji, surprisingly, had led the army of god assassins into the underground cavern and massacred the 13 demonic cities. If it weren't for their intervention by their ancient demonic ancestors to instill fear and power, they would now be in grave danger. Among them was Demon Lord Jai Linkyu. From the ancient demon race, with a penetrating gaze, he extended his hand and revealed that in Great Exai there was an old saying, if lips were lost, teeth grew cold. He proposed that all races unite to eradicate Great Exai. The old man with the giant head was the immortal elder Yangxiu. From the ancient immortal race, he began to stroke his beard and made it clear that his race was not going to get involved in this kind of matter. According to him, the massacre of the demons was their own fault. He personally thought that Great Exai was quite good. Their people were courteous and respectful. If they were not attacked, they would not attack. Furthermore, their race had already allied with humans 400 years ago. They could not betray their word. With an angry expression, Jai Linkyu began to point at the old man and asked him to stop talking nonsense, since everyone in the cave knew about the schemes of the immortal race. According to him, their alliance with humans was only conspiracies and lies. During the last 400 years, they had been supporting the 3 overseas islands hoping that they could conquer Great Exai. They wanted to take over the whole planet, but Jai Linkyu made it clear that their plan was not going to work. Old Yangxiu said that Jai Linkyu's words did not make much sense since just by accepting to come today, it was already a great favor from the immortal race. Jai Linkyu argued that no one from ancient races paid attention to the immortal race. The dragon god Xuang of the dragon race intervened in the conversation and asked why they were fighting among themselves if they had all come to talk about a possible alliance. Eradicating the Great Exai was not something with which the dragon race agreed, but someone had to move forward first. Inside the caverns, Great Exai only had 3 major cities, that of the Tearing Star, that of the Greedy Wolf, and that of the 7 assassins. Destroying them was easy, but once they left the cavern and reached Great Exai's main headquarters, they would have to face the Great Dreamer. She had existed since the era of transformation and was a supreme level transformer. If she unleashed and channeled the spiritual energy of 100 billion people from Great Exai, her power could be compared to that of an ancestral god. If they attacked directly now, at least they would lose hundreds of level 9 warriors, and no one from the cave races could bear that price. He mentioned that the demonic race had many powerful warriors and suggested that they go to the front first, and the dragon race could cover the rear. The demon king Jiui of the demonic race explained that because the path of heaven had sealed all beings of level 9 or higher among the races, anyone who dared to act would be destroyed by heaven itself. According to him, a suicide attack at this moment would be no different than drinking poison to quench thirst. He revealed that the seal of the 10th level was already half unlocked, and in less than half a year, it was going to be completely released, and when that moment came, the ancient beings of the 10 great races could unleash all their level 10 warriors with ease. Jiui extended his hand and revealed that Daxia only had 3 9th level cultivators, and all of them still needed time to reach the next level. That was going to be the perfect moment to attack. Old Yungsu nodded his head and explained to Chaling that no one was willing to pay the price for the recklessness of the demonic race, much less die just before dawn. Shu and Kang also agreed, since during these next few months, they could continue with the original plan. They had to support the external human forces to gradually weaken Daxia. He only feared that they would end up regretting it sooner or later. The portal began to show Jiang. They knew a simple warrior of 3 transformations was not to be feared, since their demonic race had already bribed the most powerful assassins from several countries, and they trusted that by joining together they could eliminate Jiang Chen soon. And even if they failed, it wouldn't matter much, since the Great Tianyuan tournament between the 3 overseas islands and Daxia was going to begin in 3 months. Besides, they had already granted dragon blood to the marine race of origin Xu, and Kang's eyes began to shine with evil and a smile appeared on his face. He knew that by then, the dragon prodigy of the marine race was also going to participate, and with everything prepared, Jiang Chen was going to die without any doubt. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,